Hello and welcome to another Real People Big Astronomy program. My name is Renee Kerrigan. I'm a member of the Big Astronomy leadership team, and I am the planetarium director at the Peoria Riverfront Museum's Dome Planetarium in Peoria, Illinois. And I'm very pleased to have with me here today Alex Jeraldo, who is the manager of the cafeterias at both the Gemini South Observatory and the Cerro Tololo Inter-American Observatory, two fantastic observatory campuses in the mountains of Chile. And of course, without Alex's job, none of the work that's done on those observatories would be possible. So today I'm going to be asking him some questions about his job and what he likes to do a little bit with his life outside of astronomy as well. If you are tuning in on Zoom, you can choose what language you'd like to hear. So just go ahead and click the button at the bottom that says interpretation, and then you can choose either English or Spanish. And if you're watching on Facebook and you would like to be listening to this in Spanish, go ahead and join our Zoom webinar. There is a link where you can do that there. This program is a part of the Big Astronomy Project, which is a National Science Foundation funded project that includes a planetarium show that was created by the California Academy of Sciences. That planetarium show is all about these observatories in Chile, but most importantly, not about the observatories themselves, but about the people that it takes to make the observatories work, because without people, none of these discoveries would happen. It also includes these live events, which we try to directly connect viewers with some of the STEM professionals who work at the observatories. It includes some educational activities created by the Astronomical Society of the Pacific and educational research that's being done by Michigan State University. And at the end, there'll be a chance for our participants to help us with that educational research if you're interested. But now I'd like to go ahead and get started with asking our guest, Alex, some questions. So Alex, thanks for being here. And I was just hoping you could describe your job at the observatory and how it connects, how it actually supports all the science that's done at the observatory.
Renee, ¿está bien pronunciado tu nombre?
Oh, my name is Renee, yes.
Renee, ¿está bien pronunciado?
Yes, very good.
Renee, bueno, dentro de mi trabajo yo siempre disfruto mi trabajo. Como lo mencionaste, mi trabajo se trata de...
My job is really about coordinating and managing the different cafeterias of both hillsides, if you will, Cerro Pachon Hill and Tololo Hill. Now, for me, first, it's always a pleasure to be invited to this meeting or interview, if you will. So I'd just like to tell you that this work is really, it's a great job, and I really enjoy what I do, because in and of itself, it's a fun job. Everything that has to do with cuisine and cooking in general, I've always liked it ever since I was a little boy. There's actually a story, or a family history behind this, and it actually took me to study this gastronomical career. But in general, in my work, every day is fun, but it is pretty stressful. We have to work long hours and work hard long hours. But there's also personnel under me. They're great people, and I have a fantastic human team, and I'm very thankful for that. Just to say that I'm lucky because I love what I do and I get to enjoy it every day.
And when you have a job that you get to enjoy what you do every day, it's a pretty good job to have, right? So when you first applied for the jobs at the observatories, now I understand that you've had different jobs through the years, that you've worked in different positions at the observatories. So when you first applied for this job, what interested you in the job?
¿Me lo puede repetir, por favor, Renee?
I understand that you've had different positions at the observatories.
¿Ya?
So when you got your start, what interested you in the job?
Bueno, ¿qué más te puedo decir? Que en general, bueno,
Alex, if you'd like to also hear the interpretation, so if you'd like to hear my questions in Spanish,
ya, por favor,
at the bottom, there's
Sebastián.
at the bottom of the Zoom window, if you click interpretation, you'll be able to hear it in Spanish. So just click on that little icon at the bottom that looks like a globe and says interpretation and choose Spanish, and
Ya.
you'll be able to hear.
Yes, por favor.
Okay. Can you hear the Spanish interpretation now? I'm not sure if I can turn it on for you.
Ya. It's okay.
Okay. So my question was, when you started at the observatories,
Por mi parte, perfecto. Sebastián, por mi parte, perfecto.
what was it that interested you in the job?
Bueno, en primer lugar, me
Well,
interesó.
first of all, I was interested in everything that has to do with the service that was being provided on both hills, Tololo Hill and Bachun Hill, because I actually joined the company as a contractor several years ago, and after that, I joined the actual Auda company just a few years ago. The first time I heard about it, and I really took it as a major challenge for myself. So in other words, actually, I'm just starting this new position. I used to be a mountain assistant, also working for the same department, but I always like this idea of working in or taking charge of cafeterias because it's what I went to college for. My academic background, my professional background has always been gastronomy. It was a really interesting proposal as well. So, and that's why I really took on the challenge without thinking twice, because I like everything that has to do with this specific area, be it the lodging part, the gastronomy, and tourism. I'm also closely linked with tourism.
And I know that astronomy tourism is an important aspect of Chile's economy.
Correcto.
Exactly. One of our major or one of our big domestic currencies, if you will, is tourism, because our region specifically, for perhaps the last 10 years or so, the astrotourism boom has grown exponentially. And we've also worked hard to make sure that to accomplish this. There's many different projects related to astrotourism. For example, in other regions, they have a wine tourism, for example, or camping, or outdoors tourism. Here in our region, we really specialize in astronomy related tourism. So there's lots of different observatories that are actually only made for tourism, like Coyahuara and Mamayuca, just to name a few.
And Alex, can you tell us about your job now? I know you're just starting a new position, but what would a typical day and your job look like? What is something that occupies what occupies your day and your job and uh, on a typical day?
Un día típico en mi trabajo
A
es
typical day is actually starting at 6 a.m. in order to be up on the hill at 8:30 because it's pretty far away from La Serena and the hillside. Maybe Renee also already knows this. It's apparently it's approximately a 2-hour commute every day from home to literally the top of the hill. So a regular day starts at 6. So then we get there and we have breakfast at our own cafeterias. So we're also inserted within that part of service. And after that, we have to start working specifically on my area, which in my case is overseeing our merchandise, the suppliers, seeing our raw materials and stock. I'll also work closely with the purchasing department, the procurement, with the human resources department, and accounting as well. Every day, we're constant motion and always with a very close link to these different departments. So I was just saying, it's lots of work. It's tough, but it's always enjoyable. We we finish our day at about 4:30 p.m. and then we have to go downhill now, all the way down to La Serena. I think by 6:30 we're normally back home.
That makes for a long day. Do you make that drive every day? Do you ever stay at the mountain or the hill? I like that you call it the hill. I think of it as a mountain, but I know Cerro means hill, doesn't it? Um, so do you ever stay at the mountain, and then do you get is your work schedule
claro, sí,
longer?
sí, cuando, mira, lo
Yeah,
bueno,
actually, the good thing about working in this specific area is that you can actually schedule your week when there's a little bit of a heavier workload. You can actually stay a day or two. You have to give some prior notice, and you coordinate with the different observatories or with our bosses in this case, because you know that now during the pandemic, everything has been tougher. Everything is under much stricter control. So, and in order for us to be able to work in these times, we have to follow certain strict protocols. Not only social distancing and things like that, but also there's a protocol for staying at the hotels that we keep up in the hill. And as a cafeteria or a restaurant of the observatories, we also have protocols assigned to each worker, and as well for everybody who's dining there as well. But when there's a lot of work and there's just not enough time, and always safeguarding safety, obviously, we stay on the hill in order to not drive if we're tired and not have an accident. So that's coordinated beforehand from one week to the next. Normally, what's when there's the middle of the month or the end of the month, that's where our heaviest workload is. So during those weeks, that's how we work. Normally, it's at least one day sleeping on the hill and also making a prior reservation of a room and always complying with all of the COVID protocols. And then we just wait for confirmation and we're done.
Well, I was lucky enough to get to stay on Cerro Tololo for 2 nights when I was at the observatory back in 2015, and I loved it. It's such a nice environment, and I got to eat in the cafeterias and very good, delicious food as well. So I know you do your job well from personal experience. You mentioned that the working at the observatories is something that you went to school for. So, what sort of education did you need, or did you get to enable you to perform your job?
Bueno, mi
Well,
título es
my degree is a restaurant and lodging administrator. It's a it's a 5-year career, 10 semesters. It's kind of like perhaps it's like a food and beverage manager. That would be akin to this position. It's a pretty long major where you learn everything from how to keep control of costs in a cafeteria or restaurant, or even how to make a bed, and how you have to properly make a salad, or an international dish or an Italian dish. They teach you from the most minute detail up to just very broad things like how to assist a whole project. In my case, I've had to evaluate projects for the cafeteria, such as purchasing machinery, industrial grade machinery, but for such a big cafeteria, and also assess projects involving extensions or expansions of the cafeteria, because there's a lot of staff. Believe it or not, with the pandemic, there's still, or we'll have to modify our infrastructure a lot, because we really need to comply with certain regulations, including social distancing between our tables. So automatically, that means that your restaurant or your dining hall needs to be bigger. And in order to extend it, we need to evaluate a project to see if something can or cannot be expanded. Is it in the budget? Do we have enough money to do this? And then project it for the next fiscal year. And all of that, all of those decisions that have to be made. uh, so it's a pretty thorough career. And in high school, I already knew what I wanted to study. Actually, I always worked in the kitchen ever since I was a 13-year-old boy. So I can handle myself in this area. But I was missing something. I was missing the administrative part of what a kitchen or a restaurant really involves. I only had the artsy part. I was expert with my hands, but I didn't know that there was a whole other side to this. So I made that decision of studying the most internal part of a cafeteria or a restaurant, and also see the other side, the lodging, the hotels go hand in hand with restaurants.
Well, that's really interesting that you knew you wanted to work in a restaurant or cafeteria while you were in high school. Something we often ask our guests on this program is what was a subject that they really enjoyed studying in school, and what was a subject that they did not enjoy studying in school?
Bueno, por mi parte, los ramos
Well,
que
for me, the subjects that I liked the most were history, for example, back in school. When I was in high school, I also like biology and chemistry, and they really go hand in hand with gastronomy, because if you really think about it, cooking or interacts with actually with those subjects. Sometimes some big preparations or important dishes are really born from the blending of products. So they're totally linked. And so thank God it's linked to what I like, because as I said, ever since I was a little kid, I liked cuisine and gastronomy. My father as well, he was a chef as well. And that's where this passion was really born for cooking.
Well, I can tell that you're passionate about cooking and your job. It's really interesting to hear about it. I'm curious, what is your very favorite part of your job?
Ah, eso no se pregunta, yo creo que se da
Because
como por
I
obvio.
think for me it's obvious. This eating. Eating is by far the best part of my job. Lunchtime. To actually enjoy the dishes that we've prepared, or that our chefs on the hills have prepared. That's by far the most satisfying part of my job. To actually enjoy all those exquisite dishes that our chefs prepare. That's the best part.
Hard to go wrong with eating a good dish, especially with people you enjoy being around, right? Um, so I know that
Exactamente.
you work at the observatories and you commute from La Serena. So can you tell us about your background? Are you from that area? Where are you from? And generally, you mentioned your dad was a chef. Is there any other things about your background that helped you get to where you are today?
Bueno, yo soy
Well,
nacido.
I was born and raised in La Serena. I know I know my town a lot, and I really like knowing it, and I also like going out and visiting new places, especially the new restaurants, what or new proposals or new gastronomical proposals that come to La Serena. I also like to get to know them. I'm really into that. Also, I like to know all the new things that are coming in, not just gastronomy, because in our area over the fast, just very recently, but we just really started getting like chain restaurants or chain hotels, like the big holdings. But 5 years before, none of that was here. So just perhaps in the last 5 6 years, we really started seeing the arrival of new projects in the area. So we really raised awareness in our area because we started seeing that lifestyles were changing. We took a different, faster path towards tourism, and we saw the different hotels, different chain restaurants, and this has really been useful for us, especially my area, and especially for the colleagues who work in food and beverage, because they've managed to find new ways to work, or new job opportunities. And as I was mentioning, my father was a huge influence as well, because as he was also a chef, and he worked in the kitchen, and he taught me a lot about what I actually know today. Not just the culinary side, but also the love that you have to feel towards what you really like to do. Now, at least from my point of view, I can say that that was a major, a good inheritance, or the best inheritance that a parent can leave a child, which is a love for your job, or what you like to do.
Well, I have young children, so that seems like pretty good advice to me to pass down a love of what you do to your children. I was curious, I thought
Exacto, sí.
back to your job of how you have to manage all the logistics for these cafeterias. So, and I know things have changed right now due to the pandemic, but how many people do you typically serve in a day? How many people do you feed in a day? And also, you have night shift and day shift probably, so that probably adds another layer of complication to your job. How many meals do you usually serve a day?
Mira, nosotros estamos
Here
otorgando
we're serving on average, I'd say about 750 meals a week. In one week, between breakfast, lunch, dinners, and also night lunches, which are for the night shifts. Normally, it's just a very light snack. That adds up to about 750 over a week. Now, daily, lunch and breakfast, that's our peaks. That's when we see the highest level of consumption. And I can also say that what we work with a nutritionist, for example. She's the one who provides the support on how to actually create our menu, because our menu needs to be very balanced, and also based on the actual workers who are working in the observatory. I'm not sure if it's the same elsewhere, but here in Chile, the standard says that above 2,000 meters above sea level, we need to get we need to consume more calories. So the menus or the diet, if you will, that's designed with our nutritionists are specifically made for more than 2,500 calories a day between breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh, that's a layer of complication that I wouldn't have expected, that you also have to account for the altitude. That's very interesting. Um, we've learned about your job, about all the logistics you have to care for, and all the people you have to feed, and how much you enjoy eating the good food that you and your chefs make. So I think the last question that we have for you is just, what do you like to do in your free time? So when you're not working, what do you like to do in your free time?
En mi tiempo libre, cuando no
In
trabajo,
my time off, when I'm not working, I actually just like to go out. I like to go out to dinner. I like to to go out and actually and get to know new places. That's what I especially like to do. Like for example, here very recently we received a new methodology of service with everything that's happened during the pandemic. What we have different restrictions. For example, now restaurants can only open their doors. Sorry, they can only open their doors with reduced capacity and only outdoors, because if not, you'd be breaking the law. So, so my time off, my free time, definitely that's what I like to do.
We have a question here in the from one of our attendees in the Zoom meeting, and a comment. So Caroline Elizabeth says, "Greetings, Alex. You are such a great professional and are always concerned to support everyone's needs." So you have a fan watching on Facebook, and in Zoom, Dave
sí.
wants to know, what are the typical foods that you serve?
Bueno, comida típica,
Well,
primero que
the
nada.
most typical food. Well, first we have to. Well, now, but when we talk about typical food, we mean something very specific, because here we have local food in the area, and then there's typical food. The typical food we say in Chile in general is uh, is beans, empanadas, but the local food, there's lots of products that are specifically from our area. Well, and they're fantastic products, such as cheese, for example. Here we have it's a really famous goat cheese from the area. It's a product that's typical from our area here in La Serena. So we can use it to make different dishes. In our cafeteria, normally we don't include products like that, because our project, well, actually, I would definitely like to make that a project for the future, to specifically include goat cheese as a product. Because as I was saying, for me, it's a new position. So uh, I, I just been here for a year, but I've already incorporated some small projects. But this project specifically that's coming up is to include goat cheese, because it's a typical food here of the area. And this product also has to comply with certain health standards and regulations in order to make sure that can be actually consumed in our cafeterias and widespread, as well as actually all the other food that comes up to the hill. But it's also worth mentioning that our transportation logistics is done through a supplier that actually helps us transport things from La Serena to the hill, and they also have to meet temperature regulations and things like that. So we always need to be very aware of the fact that the food that reaches the observatory complies with all sanitation regulations. And as I was saying, I think that the goat cheese is a typical food from the area that I would really like to include in our menu. I'd really like to work harder on that. And as a recommendation, I can say that for example, reineta, which is a fish, a typical fish from the area, reineta stuffed with goat cheese and mushroom sauce is fantastic. And hopefully paired with a nice white wine, like a nice stiff Sauvignon Blanc, hopefully from Falernia, vintage here from the Elqui Valley. That would be a perfect dish.
Oh, you're making me hungry. That sounds delicious.
Nos dimos
Well,
cuenta que no almorzó René.
I bet you didn't have lunch.
no, not yet.
A
It's earlier here where I am. It's only 12:30, so I'll be getting to my lunch, but it won't be that good. It won't be that delicious, I'm sure. So for everyone who's watching us either on Facebook or here in Zoom, if you have any questions for Alex about preparing food on the observatories for all the staff that works there, or for about the logistics of his job, or and just in general, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and we'll let those come up for a few more moments here. And I just wanted to say thank you for your time today, Alex. It's been fun to hear a little bit about your job. I hadn't imagined the difficulty in transporting all the food to the observatories, because I'm sure that does add a whole nother layer of logistics to what you do, with there being about a 2-hour commute. You also have to keep the food, fresh and stable for all that time, and then up on the mountains as well, and at altitude. So there's a lot of logistics that goes into that. While we're waiting to see if we have any more questions from our viewers pop up, I'd like to ask, I'll just mention that we have another event where our viewers can learn about another job at the observatories. We'll be featuring Peter Moore next week, who is a detector engineer. So he works on the detectors on several of the mid-sized telescopes up on the mountains. And he has worked in the past on the dark energy camera, as well as the optics on all sorts of other telescopes. So that should also be an interesting program that will be on February 26th. At the same time, 3 p.m. Chile time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And so please tune in and watch on our Facebook for more information on that. And we also have educational research that is being done on this whole program, on the Big Astronomy program, by staff at the Michigan State University. So I'd like to ask if Dr. Jessica Trucks can tell us a little bit about that. You're muted, Jessica.
So hi, everyone. Like Renee said, this is an NSF-funded project, and as a part of that, we're conducting education and research surrounding the Big Astronomy project. So we would really love it if you could help us out, and you can help us out by filling out the survey that will be showing up in the comments momentarily. And if you fill out the survey, you'll be entered to win a $10 gift card to Amazon. Another way you can help out is during the survey, you can opt in to talk with us 2 times over the next few months, and afterwards receive a $40 gift card to Amazon. So if you would like to help, we'd really appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. And I don't see any more questions coming up. I think Jessica's going to be putting the surveys in the comment section here, and there they are arriving. So please do fill out that survey if you're interested. And Alex, thank you for your time and telling us about your job today. I really enjoyed it, and my hope for the future is that I'll get to go back to the observatories someday and get to enjoy the good food that you help put together for everybody who works up on the mountains someday again soon.
Será bienvenida, Renee. Siempre.
You'll be very welcome, Renee. All of our guests are always invited to our cafeteria, so we would happily serve you when you come again.
Thank you, Alex. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. We'll sign off now, and we'll see you next Friday for another program with Peter Moore, another Real People Big Astronomy program featuring Peter Moore. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate learning from you.
Gracias por la invitación.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I hope everyone stays safe and we can see each other soon face to face.
Bye-bye.